Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. Strangle your demons and let's go.
Y'all need Jesus!
One, two, three. Don't think sorry's easily said. Don't try turning tables instead. You've taken lots of chances before, but I ain't gonna give any more. Don't ask me, that's how it goes, 'cause part of me knows what you're thinking. Should I keep going, man? Okay. Don't say words you're gonna regret. Don't let the fire rush to your head. I've heard the accusation before, and I ain't gonna take any more. Welcome to the Comfortable in Chaos Podcast. I am your host, Eric Hellberg, and you know we're like Einstein over here, man. We have no special talents. We're just passionately curious. One of the things we're passionate about is music. We can always find a song that is going to marry well with our message, and or we can find a message that marries well to our song. There are that many out there, and that's why we're always looking and always interested. Right now, guys, I'm smoking a Rocky Patel box press cigar, and it is a Rocky Patel The Edge. And Rocky Patel was a Hollywood attorney circa the 90s. Some of his clients included Arnold Schwarzenegger, Gene Hackman, both cigar-smoking stars. They passed that, I guess you would say, that habit on to Rocky. Rocky said, "The hell with this. I want out of this town, and I want out of this industry." So he didn't have to load up the truck and move to Beverly. He was already in Beverly. So he left Beverly and went out to the tabacaleras and the farms and the fields of the Dominican Republic for a new life. And since that time has crafted some of the world's finest cigars, more 90-plus rated cigars than any other tabacalera in the world, Cuban included. And that is all wrapper, binder, filler, and Dominican tobacco. Anyways, we're having a good day, guys. We're on the heels of Juneteenth, which was yesterday. I thought about doing an episode on it, and then it kind of left my mind. And you're like, well, how could you forget that, Eric? It's Juneteenth. Well, I'm not obsessed with the news, and I try to march to my own beat. And for me, I think that Juneteenth is probably widely celebrated, and now we have some integrated celebrations within the African American community. I mean, it is a vitally important day, no doubt. But it would have been signed, let's get this right, June 19th of 1865, and that was Emancipation Day. And of course, a lot of people trudged through that after slaves were freed at the end of the Civil War. But I would tell you that that is not any different than any situation anywhere with any person group and or country and or industry and or corporation whereby they feel they are deriving benefit from some practice, and especially when it belies their pocketbook, even our own government and its interventions included. It is very hard to let go. And it is so hard to let go that there are no other Juneteenths anywhere else in the world. We know in the Middle East, there are millions of slaves to this day in some capacity or another under Islamic rule. We know on the continent of Africa, there are millions of slaves to this day in some capacity under tribal rule. Please remember, the greatest country in the world, the United States of America, and probably still the youngest in the world, is the only one other than some effort on account of Great Britain to ever actually put to an end the death of the institution of slavery. And never forget that 600,000 white boys died, and there were African Americans who died too, to go ahead and fight for that to occur. And that is more deaths, and we're not even going to get into maiming, disfiguring, casualties. They were catastrophic in the Civil War, what all happened there. But as far as KIAs or deaths, more people died than all of our wars combined for, if you want to say, civil rights. So vitally important. We know it's not recognized anywhere else in the world. We know we don't have a Mescalero Apache April 10th. We know we don't have a Kiowa June 17th. We know that we don't have a Comanche September 2nd. We know we don't have an Irish December 3rd. We know that we don't have an Italian October 4th. We know that we don't have, Chinese. I mean, how did we build the railroads? We don't have a Chinese March 31st. I get it. Travesties that were abhorrent occurred. I think we have gone far enough away from it now. So my question is, that was never even a federal holiday. June 19th was never a federal holiday. Barack Obama didn't sign it into federal law via executive order. He could have during his 8 years, but I guess he didn't need any votes. He was already a black man, correct? Somewhat true, right? The only president who has ever signed that into law was in 2021, and that's our current president, Papa Joe Biden. Why would he do it? He knew the election was stolen, and he knew it was incumbent upon him to generate as much African-American interest and or the African-American vote as possible because he knew he was ass out. So he signed it. Has nothing to do with President Biden's affinity toward African Americans and or black people, or else he wouldn't have pulled on the coattails of Robert Byrd, former Klan leader for so long and the longest serving senator in American history. But Joe needs something, and he's pulling. And the reason that Joe needs something is because Joe is so far behind in the polls right now. I'm trying to pull this up. Yep. According to, let's pull this up here. And this is a CNN demographer. Liberal demographer. His last name is Enton. All right, here's what he has to say. According to Harry Enton, polling expert for CNN, aka the network that hosts Don Lemon, he says, I have just never seen anything like this. I am speechless. He said, for decades, black voters have overwhelmingly supported Democratic candidates, especially for the White House. But now the voting populace is undergoing a significant voter realignment in anticipation of President Trump coming back into office. At this point in the 2020 election, then candidate Joe Biden was winning 86% of the black vote, while Trump was winning just 7% of the vote. Here, let's go ahead and take a puff. We don't want our stogie to go out, do we? Today, Biden is winning 70% of the vote, while Trump is winning 21%, which equates to a net gain of 30 points for Trump in the African American community. That, in and of itself, is insurmountable for Joe Biden alone. What is this man going to do? Enton goes on to say, I keep looking for signs that this is going to go back to normal, but I don't see it in the polling. He goes, we are careening toward a historic performance for Republican presidential candidates and President Trump. We have not seen anything like this in 6 decades. So what I'm going to ask you, do you think, and this demographic that he primarily polled was 50 and under, people up and coming, people making their way in this world, people who have lived a little bit of life, but not their full lives yet. So much is at stake for them. And I'm going to venture to tell you the reason that they're running after Trump is because they see a freer and more sovereign man, meaning themselves. a freer and more sovereign country under Trump than they do under the Democrat ideologue, Joe Biden. Joe Biden and the Democratic Party is oppression, whereas President Trump is freedom. Now, we could just simply say that this is fake news, right? We know about the proliferation of fake news. I mean, Trump espoused it every day on the old campaign trail while he was president. I mean, he was a marked man, still is. He's never got off the hook. But we know it isn't fake news because it is from the most liberal bastion, that being CNN. No one watches it. And CNN's own polling is detailing this. And we also know that the New York Post is detailing this. In fact, what is her wonderful name? Karine Jean-Pierre, the little Cupid doll White House press secretary. She's actually given us a little bit of bold gaslighting. Yeah, direct from Karine. She said any unedited photo of Joe Biden's cognitive decline that the Biden administration does not want the public to see is a cheap fake. Oh, yeah. Any of this stuff that you see with Joe Biden falling down, being led off stages, pooping his pants, disoriented, I would say becoming speechless, standing still, remaining motionless, not knowing where to go, what to do, having to be led. She says if that's broadcast via her own bought and sold media services, the same people that she subjectively fields questions from in the White House press room, if they air or show anything that shows Joe Biden in an unfavorable light, it is a cheap fake. And did you know that Barbra Streisand, A Star is Born, that was a long time ago, Barbara. Why don't you just simply stick to your role in Yentl, right? I think you played a boy. And we know that you were a darling of the libs for so long. In fact, you used to serenade the Clintons, right, during those years and travel with the Clintons. And I think you kind of became an ardent feminist, a champion of women's rights. But you just did not seem to care when it was Hillary abusing women. And you certainly didn't seem to care when Bill was abusing even younger women. Thank you, Barbara. Stick to Yentl. But Barbara says you are not to pay any attention, and shame on you, New York Post, for showing President Biden in a bad light. What is wrong with you people? A cheap fake, right? No, I think it's right before our eyes. And I think the African American community sees it. So I guess what it really comes down to is we can just forever keep shuffling holidays, adding more holidays. We're more awoke or awakened than ever before. We can call a man a woman and a woman a man. But are we producing a more civil society? A more cohesive society? Has all this nonsense helped to build back better? I think that's what Joe said about America he was going to do, although he has failed miserably because really he was the puppet of Barry Soetoro. And Barry said he was going to fundamentally change the fabric of America. In that they were successful. Well, maybe we need to start building unity, cohesion, working together, and loyalty towards this country only and first. And I would venture to tell you that in combination with everything just described is why, despite a new federal holiday that Joe Biden signed into law in 2021, that more African Americans will be voting for President Trump come this November. Now, we could also take the stance that what I'm saying is just simply a cheap fake, according to the White House press secretary. But I don't think so. I'll tell you one better. Here's what's going on too. Did you know evidently people are just getting fed up because another pollster from CNN has left as well. His name is Chris Cillizza, former CNN political analyst. We know that the first Trump-Biden debate, we'll see if it actually happens. It is literally around the corner, June 27th. And he says, I know for a fact that my former network has structured the debate to benefit Joe Biden. And part of the rules that were announced are going to include having a muted microphone. Of course, you won't hear Joe fumbling, foiling, mumbling, stuttering, or in abject silence. They'll have commercial breaks, which means, of course, they'll have sponsors and people like that, people that Joe sold out to, probably maybe one for Lockheed Martin, maybe one from Pfizer. But the importance of those commercial breaks is if Joe gets into a hell of a pickle, which he most likely will, they can just cut away. They can cut away at any time. And you know why they can do that? Because there will be no live audience. In fact, the debate won't even be live at all. It'll just be like a show. It will be a broadcast, then aired for consumption later on. No live audience. No opening statements, because we know Joe could get jacked up with that. And no use of pre-written notes, because Joe will never make it having to look down and then read. So according to Chris Cillizza, he says these benefit Joe Biden. But Trump has absolutely nothing to worry about. Let's just let it happen. So much to say, man, but we're already running long. And if we're going to try to develop something new, we need 15 more minutes. So let's just kind of pause and get ready for tomorrow's show. So until next time on the Comfortable in Chaos podcast, I bid you bon voyage, my burgeoning flock.
Until next time, like and subscribe to the Comfortable in Chaos podcast.